Now, and then we suddenly see it turning towards the towards Pakistan. So they say, oh, the Quetta Shura must have done it. The governor of Balkh says it must have been the Quetta Shura, and if it's the Quetta Shura, it's the ISI. Presumption, presumption, presumption. Every time. I'm talking of the UN report that came out a little while ago, where Richard Barrett spoke, and I went to Barrett and I said, Richard, your credible sources you quote, each one when we investigate turns out to be an Afghan official. How come Afghan officials who've now joined you are suddenly God's gospel truth, and we who've been in a war with you for 40 years are not believed in? There's something wrong somewhere.
And so the Secretary...
Just let me finish
yes.
that. And then you get to another point. All of a sudden, after he finishes, another man stands up, literally on a pathway somewhere, and said, if it is the ISI, and it has been commanded by the government of Pakistan, any jackal hooting in Afghanistan suddenly becomes credible evidence. And Pakistan is, after all these years, we've given you the maximum renditions. We've given you, do you know in New York why nothing happened on the 11th of May? I beg your pardon, on the 11th of September? Because you gave us a list saying, we think these 3 people, help us find them, may attack New York. We went out of the way on the 5th of September, they were handed over to you, and the Americans announced from Washington, and the White House said, fantastic, we've got the people that could have harmed us, and by God's grace nothing happened. Maybe there were others who couldn't do anything. But 3 key people were handed over, if you remember,
yes,
on the 5th of September. Did you get thanked for it? No. Were the people told of America the reason New York has been safe is the Pakistanis helped us capture these people?
So your point is that Pakistan, I don't mean to interrupt because you have such a wealth of information, Pakistan is trying to get rid of Haqqani itself.
I have a 60-year investment in this country. I have given the best of my country to this country. We have done everything. We've talked about this before. Who do you think helped end the Vietnam War? Pakistan. We opened the doors. We arranged with Peking for Henry Kissinger in 1969 to fly to Islamabad, fly to Peking in a Pakistani plane, and that started the settlement on Vietnam, after which you walked out of Vietnam. We are peacemakers. We are not, as people keep claiming, terrorists. There may have been a section of Pakistan led from that war against the Soviets into this sort of activity. You abandoned the area. We were left with something in our lap which we didn't have the wherewithal or resources. So you pointed to us and bullied, saying, okay, do this or this. I mean, come off it.
And do you think Pakistan's being scapegoated? Is that...
Pakistan has been a scapegoat. Listen, my dear, we may have 2% or 3% or 5% of those people that are flashed on Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and Washington Post every morning. What about the rest of us who try to live in peace? What about the rest of us who's trying to make a go of Pakistan? What about the rest of us who respect our relationships with you people? There is a diaspora of 2 million Pakistanis in America. If there was one chap who tried to do mischief in Times Square who was not even a Pakistani, he was an American citizen, how could you blame Pakistan? What about the 1,999,999? What about them? What about all of us who contribute to the arts, to the various aspects of America which you tend to overlook? For God's sakes, let's be fair.
So tell me, I wish we could talk all afternoon. Tell me, I appreciate it. What is your message in terms of how can the United States get rid of this Pakistani insurgency, at least the part that's the Haqqani network? In other words, drones, bombing, negotiation. I hate to be so specific, but what's your advice?
You know, what I say to you is, let's be clear about one thing. I don't know what got Admiral Mullen started to talk at this late stage, but if I was a president of a country, and one of my underlings, after retiring from duty or on the eve of retirement, suddenly said, blah, 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 the first question I would have asked, you were 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, and whatever, 4 years in that post. If you didn't report it then, I would say that is absconding from duty. isn't it?
Well, the Defense Secretary, Leon Panetta, has now backed off that a bit and said they want Pakistan to help fight.
Do you think but Pakistan is still helping to fight, my dear. We're not about to lose our investment in America. Despite everything you do, President Karzai went to Afghanistan. Why did he go to Afghanistan? Because the battle in his mind is over. Having lost Rabbani, having lost even his own brother, he has now tied back towards the Americans a little more conveniently with Abdullah, who said, go to India. We love the Indians. We're talking to the Indians. We're going to try and make peace between India and Pakistan. But tell me something. I said it on television 2 days ago here to BBC. I say it to you. Whether it's the Iranians, Pakistanis, or Indians, or anyone who comes to replace the Americans in Afghanistan will not be friends. The Afghans will call them enemies. Because when the Americans helped the Afghans against the Russians, they were called friends. When they went in themselves, they were called enemies. So first I would tell every power in the region, are you willing to become an enemy? And the answer would be no. Because nobody wants to get involved in this thing. So let's put it this way. It's not but you know, despite that, I can identify one country to you which may unfortunately still stand by you and go in, and that's Pakistan. And look how you are treating us. I am so seriously saddened and indignant on how we've been treated. You can just keep saying, oh, you've done this, oh, you've done... Don't punish Pakistan time and again. You've done it for a long enough time. For what? We have paid a price you haven't paid. 9/11 pales in comparison to the number of deaths within Pakistan for standing by your side. And you can't recognize that? What a shame, if you ask me. What a shame.
Well, we will have to go to the administration to respond to that.
Please do.
But thank you very much. I wish we could talk all afternoon. Thank you for a very comprehensive
Pamela,
discussion.
I reiterate, we've got to sort this problem. Ultimately, remember, when you go into battle and you look around, you'll find few people standing, we'll still be there. But respect us, help our economy recover. We have wasted our economy on you. It's time now that you are making these accusations, and we shall stop making these accusations. And for what? We don't want anything for ourselves. And don't keep calling us corrupt and inefficient and mismanaged. That's part of the game called Asia. And you knew all of that. You have dealt with us for 40, 50 years. We may be at an all-time low, but we're there because we have lost our own powers by sharing them with you in a war that we have, seen the rear end of. But I say to you, and I say it very clearly, let's not go into recriminations. It's going to get us nowhere. Let's try and resolve this problem. In resolving this problem, you must have Pakistan by your side. In resolving this problem, if you talk to Taliban as a part of the solution, you can't have a dual policy, talk to some Taliban and not to some. If the question is that Karzai wants to talk to Taliban, then how do you decide which Taliban that is? All Taliban. And you have already talked to Haqqani, as you have said earlier, and I know that. And you've talked to... And there's so much more that I'm still not saying.
Say more.
No. Let's get peace and opportunity. Yeah. As I said, we are peace builders. I end this program with you, Pamela, by saying we opened the door to China. You remember that?
Yes.
That's what brought the end of the Vietnam War. We brought China and America together. Today, China is your biggest supporter internationally, isn't it? You know how much of the American economy they're supporting with their money and with their trade and everything else.
And so your point is bring
My point
Pakistan
is we should have been in that entire, we should have come into the goodwill. We should have been a part, not that we kept, screws keep getting tightened on us so that we, become a nation of informers and a nation of yes-sayers and a nation of... No, let us return to our past, respect, honor, dignity and pride. And let us be beside your side then in sorting this problem. You cannot solve Afghanistan without Pakistan. And Pakistan cannot be free of its own troubles without Afghanistan first being free of all its troubles. That is the conundrum.
And on that note, and some good advice, I thank you very much for being with us. I thank Ambassador Haroon for a very insightful talk. We hope to follow up in the next few months. For CBS News, I'm Pamela Falk from UN headquarters in New York.